Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Colette. Discover the world. Guided travel since 1918.
Well, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Global Travel Update, coming to you from the River of January, otherwise known as Rio de Janeiro, right here in Brazil. I'm coming to you from the Fairmont Hotel overlooking the famous Copacabana Beach, although, as you can see, I'm not dressed for it because I'm working, as I'm sure you are too. Thank you for joining me. There's just so much to talk about today, and let's get into it. We'll start with, of course, what's going on at LaGuardia. We'll talk about that terrible story first before we get into the other chaos at the TSA and what's going on in Iran. But first, let's talk about the investigation into that terrible runway collision between the Air Canada CRJ 900 and the New York Port Authority fire truck. Very much like the situation that happened on the mid-air collision at Reagan National last year between the American Airlines commuter jet and the Army helicopter. As in almost every other airline accident, nothing is caused by only one factor. It's a combination of two or three factors that in concert produces a situation that you can't recover from, hence the accident. What did we learn in the Reagan accident? That there have been thousands of near misses reported between commercial and military aircraft over Reagan that went largely, almost entirely ignored by the FAA, that didn't act on any of it. A lot of pilots reporting it. What else did we learn? That the military aircraft wasn't equipped with a state-of-the-art transponder, which it should have had, that would have given controllers a specific location of where it was, its altitude, its frequency, everything. The only thing the controller had to work on was a radar blip showing it approximately where the helicopter was. And, of course, the helicopter pilots were wearing night vision goggles, which made no sense at all over populated areas. And when it's well lit like that, night vision cameras don't do anybody any good anyway. And when the controller called out for traffic, the helicopter said he identified it, but he was looking at the wrong plane. And we all know what happened next. To this day, over a year later, they still haven't resolved proper separation at Reagan with military aircraft and commercial aircraft because the Pentagon is lobbying heavily not to have that happen. What have we not learned here? But we'll get to that later. Now let's go to LaGuardia. It goes back to the FAA once again. Why? Of 313 air traffic control facilities in America, 311 are understaffed. Washington is no exception. There were two controllers working. LaGuardia is no exception. There were two controllers working at LaGuardia the other night. Normally, at other times and places, there should have been four. One of them was distracted by another incident that the fire department was responding to on the other side of the runway. He was heavily tasked, number one. Number two, what frequency were they talking on? There's tower frequency and ground frequency. And as you know, it's a requirement. If you don't know, I'll tell you, it's a requirement that if the tower calls me as a pilot, I'm responsible for confirming and acknowledging the receipt of whatever that call was. Same thing for ground vehicles. You ask permission to cross the runway. They give you permission. They acknowledge it. You acknowledge their permission. As you may have heard from the audio tapes, when the controller saw what was going on, he told the fire truck to stop. No acknowledgement from the fire truck. They were just going to cross that runway. Now, we don't know what happened at that moment. They did recover the cockpit voice recorder. That's key. The flight data recorder on this plane is probably going to be inconsequential. What we do know, of course, is that the plane was traveling too fast to stop and too slow to do a go-around. He's only about 100 knots. He was committed. He couldn't do anything else but hit that truck, which is exactly what happened. And sadly, two pilots lost their lives. The first fatality at LaGuardia in 34 years. The last fatality back in 1992 with a crash into the water that went off the runway. But that's a remarkable safety record considering the fact of what we call runway incursions. This speaks to a system-wide problem in America of runway, tarmac, and gate capacity. where the margins of safety are getting reduced every day because there's just too much activity happening on the runways, too much activity happening in the taxiways and on the tarmac. And we see stories more than we normally like of planes hitting other planes while taxiing, catering trucks hitting planes. There's too much going on. And the FAA still hasn't done enough to figure all of that out. And once again, we have a problem where like the helicopter in Washington, the fire truck was not carrying the advanced state transponder that would have alerted the system of a pending collision. There were no last minute alerts here. You may have heard the controller saying, "I'm sorry, I messed up." That was on the audio tape. My guess is he was overtasked, which goes back to the original staffing issues that we've talked about all along. So let's see what's going on here as the NTSB does their usual great job. They're my heroes of doing the investigation. And we'll have more on that, obviously, in the days and weeks ahead. Just a terrible tragedy that I think we will say now, and we will certainly be able to confirm it later, was avoidable and unnecessary and caused by the FAA not taking action when it should have taken action in terms of regulatory process. That's what the FAA is. It's a regulatory agency and not being lobbied by airlines, manufacturers, or even airports to look the other way. So we'll watch it and we'll see what happens. All right. Now, the other chaos at the airport, or I should say airports, what's going on with the TSA. You may have seen stories on the news that the DHS is estimating about a 10% absenteeism rate among among TSA agents. I got my government shutdowns mixed up. Among TSA agents, that number is way low. That is not 10%. It's averaging about 22% at some airports like Atlanta and O'Hare. And at some airports like Houston Intercontinental, it's 40%. At Houston Hobby, it's 55%. Those numbers are completely unsustainable. And now you understand why there are 4-hour waits to get through security at Houston right now. Let me give you my own story in particular. It goes down to operational reliability of the airline, the left hand not talking to the left hand, not to mention the right hand, and how I got to Rio. I was supposed to fly on Sunday from San Francisco to Houston, connecting to Rio on United. The flight from San Francisco to Houston was an hour and a half late. That gave me no margin of error for a connect time in Houston. In fact, it gave me no connect time in Houston. But United's been promoting for years, like the last 2 years, we've talked about it before. They have a connection saver program. It's an algorithm that kicks in. And if they know that you're connecting to a flight that in itself is not connecting anywhere, they'll hold the plane, right? They've saved hundreds of thousands of connections, including passengers and baggage, over the last 2 years. We had an hour and a half head start, knowing we were going to be late to Houston and knowing the last flight of the day from Houston to Rio was going to give me a 12-minute connect time. Did they hold the plane for me and anybody else? Well, depends on who you talk to. When I got to the gate, there was an agent there. He said, "We've already rebooked you to Sao Paulo." Who wants to go to Sao Paulo? I was coming to Rio. I said, "Is the Rio plane still at the gate? I have to take you to Sao Paulo." He wouldn't answer the question, wouldn't help at all. So, and where were my bags headed? Rio. So he wouldn't listen to me, drives me to the Sao Paulo gate. Even the gate agent there shook his head and said, "Why didn't they send you to Rio? It's still at the gate." But it showed that it was closed. And my ticket now read Sao Paulo. So reluctantly, with no choice, I'm now going from Houston to Sao Paulo, connecting to Rio, making me about 9 hours late. But wait, it gets better. Remember the chaos at the TSA, at the security checkpoints? That Rio plane wasn't going anywhere. They were holding it for 45 minutes for the passengers originating in Houston who couldn't get to the gate. I could have easily made the plane. How do I know that? They held my plane in Houston going to Sao Paulo for 45 minutes. It's nuts. Well, guess what? Today is Wednesday. I finished our projects here in Rio, and now I'm flying tonight to go to Oklahoma City. Why Oklahoma City? Because we're completing our Oklahoma part of our 5-part series for PBS on Hidden Route 66. How do I get to Oklahoma City? I take the Rio to Houston flight. And what are the protocols of that? When you land in Houston, you have to clear U.S. Customs. Then you put your bags back on the belt. You would think, like in any other country, you can go right to your gate. You've already cleared immigration. You've already cleared security here in Brazil. You know what's coming next. I have to go out of the terminal and go back and stand on line for 4 hours. I'm not getting to Oklahoma City tomorrow. My bags will get there. You'll never find me there. This is what's going on. And it's not getting any better, which brings me to the subject of ICE. The idea of sending ICE agents to the airport, forgetting politics here. I'm talking about procedure, operational procedure. It's absurd. They're not trained TSA agents. They can't read the verifying machines. They can't do the CT scanning machines. They can't do the physical inspection of the checked bags. You know the old analysis of what TSA stands for? Thousands standing around. That's what ICE is doing. It's purely ornamental. They might be directing traffic, which means they're showing passengers where the long lines are that they can stand in for 4 hours. I challenge somebody to tell me what possible help ICE is doing other than maybe looking for undocumented travelers. Here we go again. The only impact ICE might have in a negative way is to scare so many people to go to the airport that the lines are shorter. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm laughing. This makes no sense. And, you know, the best thing that happened yesterday, I don't know if you saw the news, the CEO of Delta made the decision, and most of you don't even know this is in place. Every U.S. airline trying to suck up to Congress and elected representatives identifies them at either Washington Dulles, Baltimore, or Reagan. How do they identify them? They put them through security first. They whisk them right through. They give them priority every step of the way. As of yesterday, Delta said, sorry, you got to stand in line with everybody else because you haven't gone back in to fix this problem. So guess what? If you see yourself standing next to the line with Ted Cruz, he may not be going to Cancun on vacation. He may not be going anywhere because he's standing next to you on a 4-hour line. But in any case, that's what's happening now. We're trying to figure out what incentive will it take to carve out just the TSA aspect of reauthorizing funding for the DHS and getting us all back on track. And even if they do, it'll take another week. So before I leave tonight, I'm going to go get a copy of War and Peace because I'll be able to finish it tomorrow while I stand in line at Houston Intercontinental. Obviously, when I see you next week for a global travel update, I'll give you a report on what happened. I'll also give you a report this weekend on Ion Travel, our radio show that airs every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'll give you information on that a little later on. The other terrible thing here is the poor TSA agents who've not gotten a paycheck and are averaging a salary of only $35,000 a year are now being surrounded by ICE agents who are receiving a minimum starting salary of $52,000 a year. That must make everybody feel happy. By the way, a question that's asked to me all the time is, can you give money to the TSA agents to put bread on the table? Can you give them a tip? Well, my understanding in terms of procedure and acceptable policy is you can give them a gift card or even a gas card of up to $20 and that they can accept. And believe me, they need it. Give them a hand, help them out. I plan to do that tonight. I should say tomorrow morning if I ever get to the TSA agent at Houston. All right. And now the fallout from Iran. We all know that jet fuel is spiking. We all know that United Airlines alone is facing a fuel bill, if nothing else changed today, of $11 billion. Are they just going to pay that? No, they're going to pass it on to you. And the latest estimate is, last week I thought it would be like a 7 to 10% increase in the price of your tickets. It can be as much as 20%. Has it happened yet? Gradually. So here's my advice. If you're planning your summer trips right now, book the ticket now. You won't get hit with the additional fare. The longer you wait, the higher the likelihood it's going to be a much more expensive ticket. Already in Europe, it's happening. Airlines in Europe are adding a $50 to $200 surcharge on tickets there. It's about to happen in the U.S. Get ready. And once it happens at the airline level, get ready. It's going to happen at hotels, at restaurants. There'll be energy surcharges everywhere. Remember the concept farm to table? That's a lie. It's truck to farm to table. That's right, diesel, that went up too. So we should all be prepared to pay more the longer we wait. We may not have a choice, but be prepared for that until this is figured out. Obviously, the Straits of Hormuz is still closed. Depending on who you listen to, there is a deal in place or there's not. But either way, you're looking at a disruption of the supply chain that'll take at least a month to recover to have any lasting impact on the price we pay right here back in the U.S. So keep in mind that's going on. But again, if you have a planned trip, book it now, pay for it now. You can always do it on Google Flights, set an alert on that so that if the price miraculously drops substantially, you know what you can do. Cancel that flight, get the credit, rebook it immediately at the lower price, get a credit for the difference and use that for something else. But the longer you wait right now, those prices have nowhere to go but up. Please be aware of that, okay? All right. Now, speaking of flight disruptions, the new statistics are in on operational performance. What are the best and worst months for flight disruptions in the U.S.? All right. The worst months, June, coming up, July, and December every year, where 31% of passengers report they had a flight disrupted. That means delayed or canceled. What's the best month? September. Only 18% reported a disruption. But speaking of disruptions and cancellations, we like to show you our behavioral video of the week. And I'm going to tell you who I really think I'm siding with on this one. Let's see what this mother did when her flight got canceled.
This is not my final destination. We are not going back to Chicago.
And also, I just want to give you guys an update. If they end up canceling this flight, we are going to need you guys to keep your original boarding pass from RSW, because if they end up canceling, this plane will leave tomorrow. We just don't know the time yet, but you guys will need those boarding pass in order to board this flight.
Give me my car seats for my children. Let us out of here and give me my car seats. No. We're way past calm down. No, we are getting our car seats. We are not. But we spent $800 to get out of here now. We need car seats. That's the least they can give us. You need to let me get my children home. You need to let me get my children home. You can't keep my car seats. Good. You dropped me in some random city. You won't give me your car seats. Huh? I just want my car seats. You just have to release my children. Really? Are they able to get in cars without car seats? Are they more than 40 pounds? Or are they two other tiny children here that require car seats?
That's cool.
You're fucking up.
Oh, damn.
You know what? I'm on her side. What they did in this situation is they made her check the car seat. Then they decided to cancel the flight, but then tell them it wasn't really a cancellation. It was delayed until the next day. What's she supposed to do? Give her back her car seat. This is nuts. This happened to my wife with her bags on a flight going to London. You heard me talk about that a couple of weeks ago. Really bad behavior because no one takes responsibility. This is not somebody having a drug-addicted meltdown at the gate. She's a mother trying to make sure her kids are going to be okay. And as you can see, nobody was helping her. So on this one, this wasn't bad behavior on her part. I would have done the same thing. Bad behavior on the airline's part. All right, moving right along. Whew, amazing. Let's say hello to some folks. Jim and Harriet. Oh, they are number one today from Richmond, Virginia. Hello, guys. Mary Louise in Tempe, Arizona. We've got I think it's Sid saying hello from Thailand. Okay, Sawadee-ka. Sandra's saying hi from Charlotte. Jean is saying hi from Tulsa. Jean's always on from Tulsa. Hello, Jean. Michael saying hello again from sunny Lima, Ohio, going to Tokyo, Taipei, Italy, and Spain later this year. Do we need ETIAS for any of these? Yes, you will by later this year, and that will be for Italy and Spain. The EU has been dragging their feet on this. They've delayed the announcements for a long time. Remember, Real ID, same problem, where they kicked the can down the road. But I'm now reasonably assured, which means I can't tell you if it's in fact going to happen, by the EU that sometime in September, they will now make it a requirement, which it already is, for the ETA that you need to go to the United Kingdom or other countries like Australia. But for the 27 countries in the EU, it's supposed to kick in September. We will watch that. You won't need it for Tokyo or Taipei, but you will need it for Italy and Spain. All right. Janice is saying greetings from Maryland. Camilla's in Tucson. Colleen's saying, I love when you translate the names of cities, common terms such as Rio de Janeiro in Portuguese. It helps us to make educated guesses as to other foreign terms might mean in English. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Camilla's saying, terrible tragedy at LGA. Spoke with a retired ATC guy last night, confirmed these tower graveyard shifts are pretty skeleton, even when the weather throws them a curveball. My point exactly. They're understaffed. All right. Tall says, Peter, how would you say our ATC compares to ATC in other countries other than being largely understaffed? Well, there is a problem for many years, like 20, with air traffic control systems in Europe, especially in places like Zagreb, in that particular corridor. Over the years, with improved technology, which, by the way, they have better technology in their towers than we do, and with better training, they tend to do a better job with what they have. But my hat is off to the air traffic controllers in this country who are doing an incredible job with stuff they should have been, with equipment that should have been thrown out years ago. We need to support them with state-of-the-art equipment and enough manpower that nobody has to work overtime. My hat is off to two people here, the air traffic controllers and the National Transportation Safety Board. As for the FAA, you got some splaining to do. Not now, but for a long time, and hopefully not after now. My problem is, of course, will be after now because they haven't changed. They haven't changed. Their behavior remains the same. Wendy says, I'm flying out of Chicago today. How can I find out how bad the TSA lines are? Well, here's the problem. Major airports have websites where they'll give you the estimated wait times based on terminals and particular lanes. Guess what happens at Chicago, at Dallas, in Houston, and Atlanta? They turn the websites off. You know why? They can't keep up with real-time information. So as a matter of just common sense, what time are you flying out of O'Hare today? If it's between 4 and 7 tonight, you should be out there already by now. Right? The only times we're seeing it a little bit less is between 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. Other than that, it's chaotic. Sue is saying hi from Bellingham. Hello, Sue. What is my opinion about the TSA screening partnership program? We're talking about privatizing the TSA. There are about 20 airports in the United States that actually use private security guards trained by the TSA, but paid for by the airlines or by the government, but they're not TSA employees, meaning they are not DHS employees. And at those airports, they have a full complement of agents because they're not subject to government funding like that. The airports are paying for it under a different program. As long as they're properly trained, I have no problem with that. All right. Maja's saying hi from Croatia. Okay. It's time to set up a GoFundMe page for those poor TSA agents. In some locations, I think they've already done that. All right. What would happen if you paid someone to stand on the TSA line while you sit in the restaurant and, oh, great. Necessity being the mother of invention. Let's start a new business. Like what? Like Grubhub or Ticketmaster, where I'm going to give you a $100 surcharge so that I get some idiot to stand in line for you while you go get a drink. Well, I hate to say it. It would probably work, but it speaks to a larger problem of it shouldn't be that way in the first place. The year is 2026, folks. Let's get with it. This is medieval. It's medieval. All right. Saturday, I applaud the CEO of Delta. Let Congress feel the pain. We are traveling from Charlotte in 3 weeks at 6:40 p.m. to Munich. What time should we get to the airport? Oh, today. No, I'm kidding, but not by much. Hopefully, in 3 weeks, you won't have to have a problem like that. But right now, if you were traveling today at 6:40 p.m. to Munich, I would have already been out at the airport. All right. Looking to book a trip in October for Newark, Amsterdam, Charles de Gaulle back to Newark. Should I be looking to book now? Why not? Now, remember, October flights are going to be less anyway. But again, who are you booking it with? If it's with a U.S. airline, book it now. You can always then cancel later, get a refund, credit, not a refund, and then use that extra credit. That's what I would do. Okay, here's a question. How do we separate the paying of TSA agents from politics? This has got to stop, and frankly, I wouldn't want anyone not getting paid to show up to work. Leads to mistakes and frustrations. Yeah, just what we need. Angry air traffic controllers during the last government shutdown and frustrated TSA agents during this one. It's so unnecessary. And, here we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of this country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. I think we may have to amend that, right? The land of the paid. No, I'll take that back. The land of the unpaid and the home of the pissed. Let's see what happens. My good friend Tammy. My good friend Tammy from the old days at Continental. She says, I'm in Houston as usual. Well, Tammy, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you $100 to stand in line for me starting now. So when I land in Houston at 5 in the morning tomorrow, I'll make my connection to Oklahoma City. Just kidding. But lovely to hear from you. Linda's saying hi from Budapest, from Pamukkale, in Turkey. Never saw anything like it. Yes. Amazing, right? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, go on Amazon, take a look at my show called Hidden Turkey, and you'll see exactly what she's talking about. Amazing location. Wendy's saying I'm flying out of Chicago at 6:45. I have TSA pre-check. Does that help? Well, it doesn't hurt, but who says TSA pre-check lines are going to be open? Those are the first lines they close and consolidate. So you better get out there right now. Okay, are domestic flight waits worse than international? No, you're going through the same line in many cases, the same terminal. Now, obviously, it changes from terminal to terminal. So, for example, in Houston, there are a number of different terminals, C, D, and E, and I get texts about once every hour telling me, "Oh, sorry, Terminal D security lines are now closed. Can't use D. We have nobody to man them." Next thing you know, we're consolidating everybody over to C. Then that gets closed. Oh, by the way, if you go to E, they're doing pre-check for the next 10 minutes. It's Russian roulette time. Okay. Yeah, Tammy, I hope you're right that the airline did right by the young mother and her kids. Normally what happens in a situation like this, and Tammy, you work for an airline, so you know this, they're going to look at the mother as being unruly, and next thing you know, the police get called, and the situation escalates over what they should have done in the first place. Get her the stroller that you took hostage, and then you cancel the flight. Somebody take responsibility, go down under the plane, get the baggage guys to crawl in there and get it, because the plane's not going anywhere. And the mother can't go anywhere without the stroller. Idiots. Okay. Red's watching me from the other airport in Istanbul. Not IST, but SAW on a delayed flight. Crazy. I think the whole world is delayed. One day historians are going to look back at our golden age of travel in the year 2026 and call it appropriately the Middle Ages. We should know so much better now. The people who designed airports have never flown. The people who built hotels have never spent a night in one. Shall I continue? And then when you have one disruption, it all goes crazy. Oh, boy. All right. Having said that, a couple of housekeeping notes. Assuming I get out of Rio tonight, I will see you on Saturday at the Travel and Adventure Show at Dallas Marketplace in Dallas, Texas. I hope you get a chance to come out and see me, and happy to meet with everybody after my presentation and answer all your questions. And if I look beaten up, then you know why, because I was in the world's longest line to get there. Also, our radio show this Saturday, coming to you from a very special place to me for reasons I'll explain, the Terranea Resort in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, right on the Pacific Ocean. The reason why it's special to me is when I was 6 years old, I took my first long airplane flight that I remember from New York to California to see my grandparents. And what did my mom do? she got in the car and drove me down to Rancho Palos Verdes and a place called Marineland of the Pacific. When Marineland opened up in 1954, it was the largest oceanarium in the world. They had all sorts of amazing marine life in there on display, active, way before you had places like SeaWorld. And it overlooked the Pacific. Later on, I was a big fan of a show called Sea Hunt, starring Lloyd Bridges as Mike Nelson, for those people who are old enough to remember. That was also filmed there. And then in 1987, the folks from SeaWorld bought it from, guess who? Hanna-Barbera. Remember them? Yogi Bear, Yabba Dabba Doo. And the minute they bought it, they moved all the animals to SeaWorld in Southern California and closed Marineland, where it sat abandoned from 1987 until after the new century. And then finally in 2009, they built and designed Terranea on the exact same footprint as Marineland, and they've done an unbelievable job. That's where our radio show is coming from this Saturday. I hope a chance you'll join us. Again, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you can't find the stations in your market, it's easy. Just go right to our website, petergreenberg.com. We stream it live starting at about 5 minutes after 10 Eastern Time. So I hope you'll join us on that. Now it's time to go to the photo of the week. Let's do it. And I love this photo. It was taken by Tracy, I hope I pronounced your name right, Kachani, on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. And look carefully at the beautiful focus of these flowers and where they are, planted inside these volcanic rocks along the shore. And as Tracy tells the story, she had noticed these flowers for days in those rocks, and beautiful flowers. She took the picture, but then she asked one of the surfers there how they got there, and he mentioned that they were planted there in honor of a surfer who had lost his life not far from there. But beautiful picture, Tracy. Great context and contrast, and we appreciate that you did that photo. By the way, if you think you've got a photo of the week that qualifies, easy. Just send it to us to photocontest@petergreenberg.com, and if we agree with you, it goes right up there next to Tracy's. Thank you so much for that. Last but not least, I couldn't end the Global Travel Update without a shout out to my favorite team. As many of you know, baseball starts tonight. The baseball season starts tonight with the opening game of the Yankees playing the Giants, but this has nothing to do with the Yankees playing the Giants. I'm not a Yankee fan. When I was growing up, I didn't trust anybody in pinstripes, but that's another story. I'm a huge fan of the underdog. You know, I'm a Mets fan all the way. I was around in 1969 to watch the Mets win the series. I was there in 86, the famous Mookie Wilson ball under Bill Buckner's legs, which allowed the Mets to go to Game 7 and win it. And they've been coming close a couple of years now, but no banana, but no cigar, but no nothing. But I want to show you a video that reminds us of the early days of the hapless Mets as we begin baseball 2026. Roll the tape.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down
course, you can meet the Mets this year if you can get through TSA security to get on your plane to get there. Obviously, I'll report back next week. It's about my ordeal about to happen in a few hours here in Brazil. Again, radio show this Saturday. Check your local listings. Of course, we'll see you next week for Global Travel Update. And everybody cross your fingers that sense comes back to the United States government and they realize how many people they are pissing off. By the way, not red state, not blue state, just an angered state of travelers all around the country, not to mention our foreign visitors as well. Let's hope they resolve this very quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, our hearts and prayers go out to the folks who lost their lives, the 2 crew members on the Air Canada flight. We'll be following that investigation as well. I'll have more news on that next week. And of course, in the meantime, have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you next week.
Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Colette. Discover the world. Guided travel since 1918.